So what do you say we finish up this week with a review before your exam? Okay, let's see what we can do. And again, these may not be all the questions, or things might be a little different, so don't rely totally on the review. Okay, all right, so let's go through Unit 2. Okay, ready? Question about Typhoid Mary. Oh yeah, she had the bacterium known as Salmonella typhi, Typhoid Mary. And it was living and thriving in her digestive tract. She never had disease. So Typhoid Mary had a Salmonella typhi, A, disease, B, infectious disease, C, infection, D, sensitization, E, zoonosis. Okay, so she never had disease, so it can't be disease, it can't be infectious disease. It has to be infection, right? So no damage if she doesn't experience the disease. She has an infection. Okay, all right. Okay, now this can be defined as something that causes disease by definition. Pathogen, infection, sensitization, damage, normal microbiota. So it's defined as something that generates disease. Right, A, pathogen is correct. So very good. Pathogen generates disease, causes disease. Good. All right. What is the toughest living form of a pathogen? And it sets the bar for sterilization practices. Would this be a gram-negative bacterium like E. coli, a gram-positive bacterium like Staphylococcus aureus, endospores from bacteria like Clostridium difficile, or C. diff, lovingly known as, envelope viruses such as HIV, or spores from mold such as Aspergillus? What do you think? You're right. C, endospores from bacteria such as Clostridium difficile. The endospores are everywhere, they're invisible, and they are the toughest things to kill that we know of on this planet. Pretty much immortal. So that's why we autoclave and we have special practices for sterilization, because we need to make sure those are dead. Okay? All right. Spongiform encephalopathies like Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease and mad cow disease are caused by A, gram-negative bacteria like E. coli, B, mycotoxins, C, endospores from bacteria such as Clostridium difficile, D, non-envelope viruses such as the norovirus, or E, prions. Right, the answer is E, prions. Very good. When Purell and other alcohol-based hand sanitizers claim to kill 99.9% of germs, what do they mean by germs? Prions, endospores, gram-negative bacteria, like that might come out of your colon and be in the feces, molds, or we don't know. Okay, you should say we don't know. Germs could mean anything. It could be something easy to kill like envelope viruses or gram-positives. It could be endospores, but I'll tell you what, it isn't going to work on those. So yeah, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, not a good choice. How do we treat spongiform encephalopathies? Do we use antitoxins, antibiotics, vaccines, Purell, or you can't? Right, you can't. E, you can't treat them and you can't diagnose them. You can do, there's some symptoms but you can't confirm the diagnosis with any kind of lab test. And to be honest, the only way to really confirm it is to do an autopsy, and that's pretty much too late. How can someone contract or get anthrax? A, through the skin, B, through ingestion, C, through inhalation, D, through bioterrorist activities, E, all of the above. Of course, E. You already know about the bioterrorist stuff. So remember, it can get in through the skin. We call that wool sorter's disease. Ingestion, you bet. you accidentally eat a sandwich while in the field, maybe some anthrax endospores got in your sandwich. Well, it's possible. If you had enough endospores, it could cause disease. And inhalation, yes, unfortunately, yes, very much. They're invisible. You'd never know. It comes in with all the other air and any other teeny tiny particles. Why is Mycobacterium tuberculosis a scary organism? And it is. A, it produces endospores and can easily get into food. B, it is transmitted easily through the fecal-oral route and it makes mycotoxins. C, it is hard to kill on surfaces and is frequently antibiotic resistant. D, it causes mad cow disease and is easily spread to humans. E, it produces ionizing radiation. Okay, it's C. It has mycolic acid, that lipid outer covering, part of its envelope, that makes it really hard to kill with any chemicals, hard to treat with antibiotics. And speaking of antibiotics, genetically, these bacteria are really good at developing antibiotic resistance. So you have a patient that has to be on antibiotics for 6 months. If they don't take that, all their antibiotics the way they're supposed to, if their compliance is poor, they can be breeding all kinds of populations of antibiotic resistant bacteria in their lungs and other tissue. If I am camping to get some clear crystal water from a stream and drop a chlorine tablet into my drinking water, what am I in danger of ingesting? Prions, chlorine-resistant cysts of Giardia, chlorine-resistant trophozoites of Giardia, enveloped viruses, microscopic beavers. Okay, did you say microscopic beavers? Okay, funny, no. No, but Giardia does cause something called beaver fever, and what you would ingest from the water would be the cysts of Giardia. The trophozoites are what lives in your digestive tract and gives you explosive diarrhea. So, yay. In 1993, more than 400,000 people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin became ill due to the following protozoan. A, Cryptosporidium in the tap water. B, Plasmodium transmitted by mosquitoes. C, E. coli in poorly cooked hamburgers. D, Salmonella in chicken. E, H1N1 bird flu. Okay, so it's a protozoan, can't be bird flu, can't be Salmonella, can't be E. coli. So that kind of leaves Cryptosporidium or Plasmodium, but Cryptosporidium is the one in the water. Very resistant, again, resistant to chlorine and a lot of the standard practices of water treatment. And Milwaukee, Wisconsin didn't do a good enough job. So there you are. And again, who is more at risk? It would be the immunosuppressed people. Okay. Why do you tell patients to rehydrate like crazy when they have an infectious disease caused by E. coli? For reasons other than the obvious fluid replenishment. Okay. A, to flush bacterial toxins out of the kidneys. B, to flush bacteria out of the intestines. C, to deliver antibiotics more effectively. D, to reduce the risk of antibiotic resistance. E, water is toxic to certain kinds of bacteria. I hope you picked B to, I hope you picked A, not B. You picked A. You drink tons of water to flush the bacterial toxins out of the kidneys, okay? The solution to pollution is dilution. The toxins will cause an inflammatory response and it will end up killing cells and tissue. You'll have scar tissue and kidney damage and maybe end up on dialysis. Huh? There is currently a cholera epidemic in Yemen with just over 65,000 reported cases. Healthcare workers were not being paid by the government, and they weren't. Therefore, healthcare is scarce in Yemen. What is the potential cholera case fatality rate for people not receiving any medical treatment? Is it 1% fatality, 20% fatality, 50% fatality, 75% fatality, or 100% fatality? Hopefully you said 50%. It is a 50-50 thing. Even treated, you have a 1% or so chance, depending on how good you were treated. So, yeah, serious stuff. The separation of individuals who have been exposed to an infectious disease is A, quarantine, B, sanitation, C, isolation, D, ID50, E, vaccination. And of course, that's quarantine. That is A. Okay, right. Isolation is, okay, that means that you have the disease. Quarantine is you've been exposed to the disease. Which of the following describes a West Nile virus vector? A, dogs and cats. B, endospores. Ticks. C, ticks. D, mosquitoes. E, water. So what do you think? So what is a vector? Okay, that's something that transmits infectious diseases. West Nile is a virus, and it is transmitted by, you said D, mosquitoes. You're right. Good job. 2 hours after eating well-cooked leftovers from a restaurant, you develop nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, sometimes known as staphylococcal food poisoning. Why? A, you didn't kill all the bacteria when heating the leftovers. B, the bacteria produced heat-resistant endospores. C, the bacteria produced heat-resistant toxins. D, these prions are not affected by heat. E, these prions made strong endotoxins. So you should choose C, the bacteria produced heat-resistant toxins. It's not the endospores, and the bacteria, it's not about the bacteria, it's about the very heat-tolerant, heat-resistant toxins that bacteria secrete into the food. And of course, these are bacteria, not prions. So yeah, D and E, no. All right. I know this is purple. Oh well. Why do patients receiving the standard killed or inactivated influenza vaccine experience symptoms? A, because the viruses are reverting back to the living form, producing influenza. So B, because the dead viruses trick the body into an inflammatory response. C, because the virus has mutated. D, because it is all in the patient's head. E, there has never been a problem with an influenza vaccine. Okay, you should choose B. The dead viruses trick the body into an inflammatory response. You've got to go into inflammation if you're going to make memory cells, and this means you're going to have symptoms. Some people have, symptoms that aren't noticeable, subclinical. Okay. Some people have some, kind of achiness, maybe even a head, slight fever. That's typical, but it's your immune system trying to make memory cells. That's what you want to do. You want to make memory cells with a vaccine. Of course, there have been problems with influenza vaccines. There has been a problem with every vaccine, with every medication that probably you've ever heard of. There has been side effects. So yeah, over the counter or prescription. So yeah, no, there's always going to be a problem. Never think it's in the patient's head. Okay, that's not a good way to approach a medical problem. The virus isn't mutating, it's dead, so it can't mutate if it's dead. So yes, they're not reverting back because they're dead. And remember, the living one, the living vaccine, flu mist, is off the market. Yay! Or at least, well, it's not off the market, it's just not recommended. Those are living, and those could revert and cause issues, so just don't use that one. Okay? When you squeeze a skin abscess, releasing bacteria into the bloodstream because you didn't lance it, which type of gram-positive bacterium commonly causes this bacteremia? Okay, so we're talking about an abscess in the skin. Okay, you squeeze it, it causes bacteremia. What's really common at doing this? Is it E. coli, A, or B, Salmonella typhi, or C, Vibrio cholera, or D, Clostridium difficile, or E, Staphylococcus aureus? And hopefully you said Staphylococcus aureus. Yes, indeed. Which influenza causes pandemics such as the Spanish and bird flu? Is it influenza A, influenza B, influenza C, or all of the above? No, it's only influenza A. That's the only one that jumps from from animals to humans. It's zoonotic, and that means that it can have really crazy genetic diversity, and it can just wreak, wreak havoc with our immune systems because and we'll get a huge inflammatory response, and we don't know what to do with it. Our bodies just don't. So it's influenza A, right? Of course it is. Why can't I get tetanus from the tetanus component toxoid vaccine? So it's the tetanus part. It's a toxoid vaccine. So what is a toxoid? Okay, so what are we talking about? Is the answer A, the vaccine contains toxin proteins only? B, the vaccine contains the whole but killed tetanus bacterium. C, the vaccine contains an attenuated tetanus bacterium. D, the vaccine contains just subunits of the tetanus bacterial cell wall. Okay, it's a toxoid. Toxins are proteins, so it's a toxin protein only. They just changed it. They denatured the protein. So A is the answer. You have been exposed to hepatitis B, Hep B, due to a needle stick. Uh-oh. You are given gamma globulin. Okay, how does that work? What is that exactly? A, gamma globulin blocks memory cells for a stronger immune response. B, pre-made antibodies punch holes in the Hep B viruses. C, gamma globulin produces extra memory cells. D, pre-made antibodies label Hep B for destruction. E, this antibiotic poisons the Hep B viruses. So what is gamma globulin doing? Okay, if you remember, gamma globulin is an antibody. It's a Y-shaped little antibody, and it's another kind of protein. Everything's proteins. So yes, gamma globulin comes in a little vial, and these are pre-made antibodies, and they will attach to and label Hep B for destruction. They don't do it themselves, okay? They don't punch holes in anything, nor are they an antibiotic. They don't poison Hep B viruses, no. And hopefully they would never block memory cells. That would be bad too. How do most people die from human immunodeficiency virus? A, the virus infects the meninges of the brain, causing meningitis. B, the virus infects the valves of the heart. C, the virus infects the lungs, causing pneumonia. D, the virus infects peripheral muscles, causing paralysis. E, the virus infects immune cells, and you die from something else. Now, what's human immunodeficiency virus? Oh, that would be HIV. And it causes a condition known as AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So, all right, so HIV infects the immune cells, you become immunodeficient. And okay, secondary infections move in, and that's what kills you. So the answer is E. Okay, all right. Ringworm, also known as tinea, is caused by A, parasitic roundworm, B, parasitic flatworm, C, protozoan cyst, D, a mold, E, protozoan trophozoite. Right, this is not a worm, it is a mold. It's a type of mold that grows on the skin and causes an inflammatory response. Sometimes you get the ring, sometimes you don't, but that is what tinea is. That's what ringworm is. Not a worm, it's mold. Okay. Sometimes we lose the battle during a pathogen invasion and get disease because they have greater numbers. How could that be measured? Would that be through LD50, the ID50, sieverts, micrometers or micrometers, also known as microns, or all of the above would measure this? Okay, so we're talking about disease. The first one is, this is lethal dose 50. We don't want lethal dose 50, and you heard that one before. So ID50 is infectious dose 50. So this is how we find out, okay, so how many organisms does it take to cause disease in 50% of the tested, usually it's animals or patients. So how much you have to have in a population to cause an infection in 50% of that population. Okay, sieverts is for radiation. Okay. How is cholera transmitted? A, through respiratory droplets. B, through mosquitoes. C, the fecal-oral transmission route. D, a tick. E, it is a bloodborne pathogen. C is correct. Fecal-oral transmission, and very easily transmitted, unfortunately. What is the main goal of a vaccine? A, to protect against infection. B, to make immune memory cells. C, to protect against symptoms. D, to poison bacterial cells, just like any antibiotic. E, to deliver pre-made antibodies. Okay, this is to make immune memory cells. That's the goal of a vaccine, preferably without ever causing a disease. Okay, so the organisms can get in and on you, but you have to be able to mount your own defenses, get your military ready to go by making memory cells so you don't get symptoms. Okay, well, you don't get disease, I should say. But you could get symptoms from just the vaccine, as we mentioned before. You can get inflammation. We just don't want you to get disease, damage. That's the goal. Okay. And again, vaccines, this is just bits and pieces of the pathogen. So it's not some poison, it's not an antibiotic, and it's not pre-made antibodies. The vaccine makes you do the work so that you are ready, okay, if it ever comes back. All right. In underdeveloped, also known as under-resourced populations, what is the main pathway of disease transmission? So we're talking about a particular population here. A, bloodborne. B, respiratory. C, fecal-oral. D, vector. E, fomite. Right, C, fecal-oral. A lot of the under-resourced populations, they have a lot of diarrheal disease because they don't have a good system of cleaning up fecal waste material and cleaning up drinking water. Water is so important. We tend to take it very much for granted, I'm afraid, but not for long, I suspect. If I touched an inanimate object that had invisible fecal particles containing salmonella, that inanimate object transmitting salmonella would be called A, pathogen, B, antigen, C, antibody, D, vector, E, fomite. Okay, it's got to be E, fomite. Okay, it's the inanimate object. It itself does not generate the disease. It isn't, the fomite, the inanimate object is not an antigen or an antibody, and it's not really a vector per se, like an insect. Okay. All right. In economically developed population, what is the main pathway of disease? Bloodborne, respiratory, fecal-oral, vector, or fomite? What is the main pathway? It is respiratory. Respiratory droplets. And again, most of the respiratory pathogens are contagious a day or two before you have a symptom. So that is why it is the main pathway. Usually we have our water and everything pretty much worked out, and so you don't get the fecal-oral, hopefully. This agent is carcinogenic and can cause vomiting, abdominal pain, and possibly death. It is a bad problem in houses that have flood damage. This is usually associated with Aspergillus flavus. So would this be A, mold spores, B, mold mycotoxins, C, enveloped viruses, D, anthrax endospores, E, Clostridium botulinum endospores? Okay, so hopefully you remember Aspergillus is a mold. And the big problem causing vomiting and abdominal pain is the mycotoxins that it produces. The mold spores allow it to get around, But that itself, all the mold spores usually do is cause an allergy. So yeah, more than that. Okay, if you have an immunosuppressed patient who likes to take care of wild birds, they would be at risk for contracting which of the following? A, cryptococcosis lung infection. B, cholera lung infection. C, fomite diseases. D, malaria. E, giardia. So I'm talking about wild birds here. Clearly, an immunosuppressed person is probably at risk for a lot of things, but okay. So it would be the fungal disease, cryptococcosis lung infection, remember, if you're caring for wild birds. So cholera is not a respiratory disease, so you're not going to get a lung infection of cholera. Fomites, not so much. Malaria, you need mosquitoes, and giardia really doesn't have that much of an, I mean, that's mostly drinking water, not just caring for birds, okay? Babies can die due to whooping cough or secondary infection complications due to whooping cough. How do adults know that they have whooping cough and therefore know to stay away from babies and people at risk? A, adults also have a severe cough. B, adults have cold-like symptoms. C, adults never get whooping cough once they've had their childhood vaccines. D, adults die from whooping cough. E, adults never get whooping cough. And that one's a little tricky. But yeah, the only thing adults get, they may have cold-like symptoms. So then they have to decide, wow, do I have Bordetella pertussis whooping cough or do I have a cold? Maybe it's just better to go ahead and get a vaccine and get that boosted, right? All right, so farmer's lung is typically caused by A, fungus, B, gram-positive bacterium, C, gram-negative bacterium, D, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, or E, protozoan cysts. So farmer's lung is typically caused by a mold, which is a fungus, so that would be A. The Zika virus. The Zika virus causes microcephaly in infants. Can it be transmitted sexually? So what are they saying if your patient asks this? No, it is only transmitted by mosquitoes. B, no, it is only transmitted by ticks. C, no, it is transmitted by fecal oral routes. D, no, it is transmitted by respiratory droplets. Or E, possibly. Remember, it has been found in urine, so that is a possibility. Okay. Yeah, avoid the mosquitoes, but it is a possibility. So E. Which would be harder to kill on a toilet seat surface, HIV or a norovirus? So what did you say? Did you say norovirus? That is correct. HIV, remember? You spill it, if it dries out, there's just not a lot of time, and then it's no good. The envelope will all shrivel up and it can't infect the next cell. So casual contact is not going to give you HIV. Okay. This disease is caused by a protozoan. It is spread by mosquitoes and is one of the top 10 causes of death in low-income populations. So is this A, malaria, B, cryptococcosis, C, botulism, D, staph infections, or E, salmonellosis? Hopefully you said malaria. The only two, two protozoans, it's malaria and cryptococcosis, but malaria is the one that's spread by mosquitoes, and it is one of the top 10 causes of death in low income and under-resourced populations. When an individual relies on those surrounding them to be immunologically protected by vaccines in order to stop the route of infectious disease transmission, typically they rely on this because they cannot or refuse to receive the vaccine themselves. I'll have to fix that sentence. Is it A, sensitization, B, hygiene hypothesis, C, secondary immunity, D, fomite immunity, or E, herd immunity? So when an individual is relying on others around them to be protected immunologically. So they had to have gotten the vaccine, and that would stop the route of infection. Okay. Okay, that would be herd immunity, right? Herd immunity. Very good. Some adults do not get a DTaP vaccine. The AP stands for acellular pertussis. And this is for the organism called Bordetella pertussis. What does this organism cause? Is it A, whooping cough, B, measles, C, tetanus, D, botulism poisoning, E, influenza? Hopefully you said A. It is whooping cough. Bordetella pertussis or pertussis is whooping cough. Okay, so you get your DTaP. So you're protected. So you made memory cells so you don't spread it to little children. Okay, there you go. All right. Message received. Okay. What are the potential health benefits related to vaccine technology? Okay. A, protection from major pathogens. B, protection from serious disease and death. C, protection from immunosuppression. D, protection from cancer. E, all of the above. Should be all of the above. Because yes, if you get a vaccine, hopefully you make memory cells. You are protected then from major pathogens, whatever they have a vaccine for anyway. Protection from serious disease and possibly death, sure. Again, some of these vaccines protect you from organisms like measles that will cause immunosuppression. We don't have a vaccine, unfortunately, for HIV, but we do, and we also have vaccines that protect you from cancer, and that, of course, would be the HPV human papilloma vaccine that will stop various kinds of cancer, including, of course, cervical cancer, but also, anal cancers and other types. Okay. What is the only difference between Staphylococcus aureus and MRSA? A, they are different species of bacteria. B, one makes toxins and the other doesn't. C, one is a bacterium and one is a stronger virus. D, one has genes to destroy antibiotics. E, there is no difference between the two. So MRSA stands for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, or really better, it would stand for multi-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. So they are the same species of bacteria. They're both Staph aureus. As far as toxins, that, they probably both make the same toxins. That's not the thing. They're both bacteria, so that's not it. But yeah, MRSA has an extra gene, and that gene gives it the ability to destroy antibiotics. So it can live in a patient full of antibiotics or in the environment with antibiotics, whatever. It is resistant. And yeah, there is a difference definitely between the two genetically. Okay. Stomach flu. This is caused by A, fecal oral pathogens that infect the digestive tract. B, influenza viruses transmitted through respiratory droplets. C, malaria. D, mosquito bites. E, bloodborne pathogens. How do you get this? So again, stomach flu is not influenza. It's not the influenza virus. With influenza, you get achiness and fevers and, respiratory symptoms. It's a respiratory disease. So, but stomach flu is different. It's a misnomer. Stomach flu basically means that you ingested something from somebody's feces, somewhere, either an animal or a human, but that's what you did. And it got into your gut, and now you have GI distress, stomach cramping, diarrhea, what have you, maybe vomiting. But this is A, fecal oral pathogens that infect the digestive tract. Okay. Every once in a while, meat products, peanut butter, and vegetables are recalled because of E. coli contamination. What had to have gotten into those foods for E. coli to be found there? Okay, A, feces. B, insects. C, the food produced toxins during a breakdown process. D, radiation. E, all of the above. Yeah, okay, feces. If you find E. coli on an object in a food, it is through feces. By the way, some news agencies and companies will say, well, they won't call it E. coli, they'll say a coliform. That's a coliform. M as in Mary. It's not going to be on the test, but I just want you to know what they mean by that pretty much is it's E. coli and it's fecal contamination. You say E. coli and people freak out, so they found a different word. And microbiologists know that, yeah, coliforms are indicators of fecal contamination, and E. coli is definitely an indicator of fecal contamination. So it is a coliform. Just so you know, don't be fooled. Education's great, isn't it? For some individuals, the first time they encounter peanut proteins, they do not experience symptoms, but they do make memory cells and something called IgE antibodies. So what is this process called? A, sensitization. B, asthma. C, allergy. D, histamine. E, hygiene. Hygiene? No. Okay, no, this is sensitization. The very first time you are exposed to something that later on could be an allergen, okay, but you're not really getting the symptoms here. You're making the memory cells. You're making IgE antibodies, and those are going to attach to mast cells and something called basophils, and they're kind of they're granulocytes, and that charges the granulocytes so that if the organism ever comes back, it'll attach to the antibody and trigger the granulocyte to release the granules, which contain histamine and other things. So then you have an allergy if it's very severe, and you have constriction of the airways and a lot of mucus production. Then you have asthma, right? Okay. Why are there more antibiotic-resistant bacteria now? A, the antibiotic-covered environment selects for the resistant bacterial forms. B, natural selection, a Darwin thing. C, the antibiotic susceptible bacteria are killed off with low concentrations of antibiotics. D, antibiotics are in water, sewage, animal feed, animals, and people. And hopefully you're thinking, oh, it's got to be E, all of the above. That is correct. And again, you never want to say, oh, this patient is resistant to antibiotics or to penicillins or what have you. Someone who knows what they're talking about will say that that patient has bacteria that are antibiotic resistant. The antibiotics are not poisoning the bacteria in those people, okay? When the immune response reacts to a harmless foreign substance producing conditions such as rhinitis, that is known as A, an allergy, B, asthma, C, sensitization, D, autoimmunity, or E, memory. And you said A for allergy, didn't you? Good for you. All right, moving on. Who sets up the guidelines for vaccines in the United States? Is it A, up to each state, B, the CDC, C, the World Health Organization, D, doctors, or E, all of the above? Of course, it's the CDC, right? Centers of Disease Control. And the states are the ones that will just kind of control how it all gets delivered, okay? There is a rise in allergies in Western populations. Scientists have evidence that the root causes include genetics and environment. Because the immunological response to allergens is similar to the response to parasites, scientists believe that a lack of parasite and other microbial exposure can be contributing to this problem. Linking the rise of allergies to the reduction of human parasites is called the A, asthma theory, B, hygiene hypothesis, C, autoimmunity, D, memory, E, immunodeficiency hypothesis. And of course, it's B, it's the hygiene hypothesis. Not a very comfortable hypothesis, I know. I feel you. What are the potential problems associated with vaccine technology? Is it A, allergic reactions to vaccine components, B, poorly manufactured products. C, an inflammatory response. D, the inability to mount a strong enough immune response. Or E, all of the above. Of course, all of the above, right? Because any component could trigger an allergic reaction. If a peanut protein can do it, well, okay, any one of the weird things they put into vaccines could probably do it too. I shouldn't say weird vaccines, preservatives and things. And again, sometimes vaccines are made badly. And oh yeah, and again, you can have an inflammatory response because you're making memory cells. Okay. And that's another problem. Some people just genetically don't mount a strong enough immune response. Or, it could be you're stressed, right? Stress reduces your ability to respond to vaccines because your immune system activity drops when you're stressed. And I know none of us know what that is like, right? I know. Okay, scientists and health professionals, that should be scientists and health professionals, okay, let's get that straightened up, worry that patients receiving too many antibiotics will become resistant to those antibiotics. So is that true or false? Is that statement true or false? Okay, scientists and health professionals worry that patients receiving too many antibiotics will become resistant to those antibiotics. Of course, that's false. It's not about the patients. It's not about you. Patients can be resistant to drugs that target their cells, like, I don't know, high blood pressure meds. But antibiotics target the bacteria. The bacteria become resistant, and it's a gene thing in the bacteria. So you might get rid of your resistant Staph aureus and then get repopulated by Staph aureus again, but it's not MRSA this time. They're just regular susceptible bacteria, and normal penicillin works. So you can get rid of the resistant ones and then get another batch of another infection, and they could be completely susceptible to the same antibiotic. So yeah. Exposure to sunlight, non-ionizing radiation, is linked with A, leukemia, B, broken DNA, C, radiation sickness, D, cataracts, E, breast cancer. So this is non-ionizing radiation. Okay, so it's not going to completely break DNA, right? Sometimes it can cause a thymine dimer, but really what it's linked to is cataracts. So that would be D. Okay. Ionizing radiation is linked with skin cancer, A, B, leukemia, C, broken DNA, D, radiation sickness, or E, all of the above. And of course, the answer is E, all of the above. And yeah, pretty bad. Ionizing radiation. Tanning beds do not cause skin cancer. That's why we love them, right? A, true, or B, false? Okay, B is false. Yeah, they sure have that potential. Okay, just like UV radiation that you normally get. Okay, isotopes undergo radioactive decay. Which of the following is energy released, just energy only, it's not a particle, and has the most penetrating power? Would this be A, alpha, B, beta, C, gamma, D, delta, E, omega? I know, I'm going through the whole Greek alphabet, kind of. So that would be gamma, because alpha and beta have particles, right? Gamma. Right. Some foods are irradiated with non-ionizing radiation. This is dangerous to eat because they're radioactive, right? True or false? False. Okay. All it does, the non-ionizing radiation, okay, it's not going to, it'll work as a preservative, but you're not going to have radioactive strawberries in the grocery store, okay? All it's going to do is, it might cause some thymine dimers, depending on what they use in the DNA, or it could heat it up, but probably it's going to be thymine dimers. So you're not going to get radioactivity from this food. And this is something that a lot of producers practice. And I actually really like that. I wish all foods were irradiated. I hate preservatives. I really do. Don't trust them. Okay. That's another lecture. Which part of the UV spectrum is more likely to produce damaged DNA? Would that be the shorter wavelengths, the longer wavelengths, the non-ionizing, radio waves, or microwaves? What do you think? So, okay, if you are going to destroy DNA, the shorter wavelength has the more energy. So that would be A. Okay? Okay, good. In order to protect you and your patients from C. diff, Clostridium difficile, you should use something. And yes, so is it A, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, B, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, C, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, D, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, or soap and water in bold? Yeah, there's only one answer there. Oh, that would be soap and water, wouldn't it? That would be E. Do I feel strongly about such things? Oh, you have no idea. And I won't even go into it. So, okay, ultrafine particulate matter released from the burning of fossil fuels is typically A, never inhaled, B, exhaled and not a problem, C, an irritant to the upper branches of the respiratory tree, D, lodges in the tiny alveoli sacs, or E, explosive. Okay, remember, the smaller it is, the more dangerous it is, the lower it gets into the respiratory tree, and the little tiny ultra fine particulate matter gets right down to the alveoli. So there you go. And there you're going to get an inflammatory response and collateral damage. Okay. Particulate matter's greatest impact on human health is A, cardiovascular disease, B, ionizing radioactivity, C, greenhouse gas contributions, D, cerebral palsy, E, attention and memory deficits. So in fact, heart and lung and blood and all that causing blockage of arteries, hardening of arteries, inflammation, all that. Cardiovascular disease, A. Fossil fuel pollutant gases are attributed to which health impact? A, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, B, cardiovascular disease, C, stroke, D, heart failure, E, all of the above. No brainer, right? That's an E, all of the above, right? All those chemicals, oh dear. We could have even thrown in cancer, but I only have five that I'm going to put in there. Okay. All right. Which bioaccumulates, biomagnifies, is a neurotoxin, and is released from the burning of coal? Is it A, lead, B, carbon dioxide, C, carbon monoxide, D, mercury, E, volatile organic compounds? Yes, it's our old friend D, mercury. That is correct. And because it's volatile, it gets into the air, gets into the soil, gets into the water, gets into the fish, gets into people. Not good. Which of the following countries did not sign the Paris Agreement? Would it be A, Great Britain, B, the United States, C, Mexico, D, China, E, North Korea? If you were paying attention, it is B. United States did not. Only one of three, right? And we were one of them. Which of the following is not a fossil fuel? A, natural gas from the stove. B, oil. C, uranium. D, gasoline. E, coal. Of course, that is C, uranium. Good. The use of water to crack open shale deposits in order to release natural gas whilst contaminating water with toxicants. This is known as A, hydrogen fuel extraction, B, acid extraction, C, fracking, D, hydrolysis, E, strip mining. All right, well, it's going to be fracking. And of course, the water is full of toxicants. as we have found out. Oh, joy. So, few problems there. Substances that release energy. A, fuel. B, uranium. C, particulate matter. D, radioactive decay. E, non-ionizing radiation. So by definition, it is A, fuel. Fuel is a substance that releases energy, right? Okay. Oil is made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms, carbon and nitrogen atoms, nitrogen and hydrogen atoms, oxygen and nitrogen oxides, sulfides and nitrogen oxides. Okay, so you have to think about it. Oil is a what? Oh, a hydrocarbon. Same thing. It's a fossil fuel, hydrocarbon. So hydrogen and carbon atoms. So A. All right. If you're getting tired, you need to pause, get some caffeine, but we don't have much longer to go. Little bit, but not much. Which of the following is a renewable energy source? Is it A, coal, B, nuclear energy, C, oil, D, natural gas, E, solar energy? Of course, that's E, solar energy. Very good. What is the main drawback of wind and solar power? A, particulate matter pollutants. B, no place to store the energy when unavailable. So when they're not working, where do you put the extra energy? C, greenhouse gases. D, bioaccumulation. E, workers are at risk around these energy sources. Okay, so really the drawback is you don't have any place to store the excess energy. So if there's no wind or solar power, you don't have another source. I'll have to reword that when we have the test. But yeah, you can get your wind energy when there's wind, but how do you store it when there's no wind? Okay, same thing with solar. If you've got clouds, what do you do? So batteries, that's what you need. What was the last nuclear disaster in the United States? Was it A, Chernobyl in 1986, B, Fort Calhoun 2015, C, 3 Mile Island in 1978, D, Deepwater Horizon in 2010, E, Exxon Valdez in 1989? Okay, this is in the United States. So Chernobyl, that's Russia or the former Soviet Union. Fort Calhoun, no, that's the Blair nuclear power plant. They're decommissioned. They never had a problem. So yeah, that would be 3 Mile Island in 1978, right? And Deepwater Horizon and Exxon Valdez, of course, produced oil spills. By the way, sir, and I think I misspoke. So the Exxon Valdez was the worst disaster until Deepwater Horizon, as far as how much oil was pumped into or dumped into the water. So yeah, Exxon was the worst until Deepwater Horizon. I think I misspoke on that one, but that's okay. I won't probably have anything like that on the test. So I won't have anything like that on a test. Let me clarify that. Okay, with a conservative estimate, approximately how many years worth of oil and natural gas will be available to us as human beings on this planet? So we can still keep going with the fossil fuels for about how many years? 250 years? 130 years? 100 years? 50? 40? Yeah, we've got 40 years. So probably your lifetime. Then we're going to be out. Oil and natural gas. So bye-bye. That's about it. It's going to have to go up in cost too, probably. Okay, so why are fossil fuels adding more CO2 to the carbon cycle? Okay, where's all this, isn't it all just part of the normal carbon cycle? Well, maybe because hidden sequestered carbon is burned, A. B, fossil fuels cause winds to shift and concentrate tropospheric CO2 already present. C, fossil fuels cause an increase in temperature, causing trees to release extra CO2. D, fossil fuels cause an increase in temperature, causing animals to release extra CO2. E, fossil fuel particulates grab onto carbon and oxygen already in the atmosphere. So of course it's A, we're taking hidden, or also known as sequestered carbon, we're bringing it up from down below and we're burning it all at once. So what was only just above ground carbon dioxide in a above ground carbon dioxide cycle, now we're bringing all this other stuff from down below that hasn't been out in the open for millions of years. So that's what's going on. And when you burn fossil fuels, CO2 comes off, and there you go. CO2 levels have always fluctuated, true or false? This is true, okay? CO2 levels have always fluctuated. Absolutely, that is true. Are they fluctuating this much? Nope. So how do we know that CO2 levels have never been this high, even after thousands of years? A, we really don't know. B, computer modeling. C, taking ice core samples from Antarctica. D, taking tree core samples. E, measuring the layers of shale rock. Well, this is taking ice core samples. And I have a picture that I didn't have in my presentation because I know somebody that did this kind of work, and I thought I should probably share it with you. So again, these little cores, it's like taking an apple core, and you go down in Antarctica and other ice formations that have been there for, thousands and thousands of years, and you just measure the little, what's in the gas bubbles in there that's trapped. That'll tell you, okay? And yeah, so the newer, let's say the newer deposits would be on top and the older ones would be down below. Okay, what is pneumoconiosis? So what is that? Is it A, inflammation of the lungs due to particulate matter, B, white lung, C, asthma, D, neurotoxicity disease, E, lung cancer? Okay, so you're probably between two answers here, but it is the inflammation of the lungs. It's that inflammatory response again. And it's because little particulate matter pieces, those little PMs, are stuck down deep into the lungs, particularly in the alveoli. Okay, so that's directly. This isn't lung cancer yet. All right. What is the perfect alternative to fossil fuels? Is it A, wind energy, B, nuclear energy, C, solar power, D, natural gas, E, none of the above? None of the above. E, we don't have any perfect alternative. Probably nothing's perfect, and we need to work a lot on the technology. But maybe little bits from every one of these sources, except for natural gas, because that's a fossil fuel. But wind and nuclear and solar and a few other possibilities, depending on your community. I think it's like everything else on this planet. The answer is, well, it depends. What would work best for you? It's like your patient, not all, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of world, right? The main nuclear power plant disasters were primarily due to A, old technology, B, bad management, C, human error, D, radioactivity, and E, all of the above. Really, A, E, all of the above. And we could have talked about Japan, which included tsunamis and earthquakes, but, if we're going to talk about a lot, all of the main nuclear power plant disasters that we've had, it was pretty much all of these. Okay. What is the Black Triangle? A, an area in Europe where acid rain destroyed forests. B, a place in the Atlantic where ships and planes disappear. C, an area in the North Atlantic where the Deepwater Horizon spilled millions of barrels of oil. D, an area in Japan that was exposed to ionizing radiation. E, a symbol representing the three countries that pulled out of the Paris Agreement. It is A. Yes, it's an area in Europe, again, Germany, Poland, and Czechoslovakia for the most part. There was a lot of acid rain, and it destroys their forests, so it's this black triangle. Of course, B, we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle. Okay. For those of you who are wonderful nerds out there, shout out, yay. Okay, What does extra CO2 in the troposphere do? A, decreases the protective ozone layer. B, increases the harmful ozone layer. C, exposes us to more UV radiation. D, causes heat to be trapped on the Earth's surface. E, produces non-ionizing radiation. Of course, it causes heat to be trapped on the Earth's surface. And there you go. So these are just some. I have to work on the exam, haven't written it yet, but good luck. And again, if you have any questions while studying, let me know. Email me, okay? And you have a great week, okay?